Hi, Emily. I hope you've had a good week. I'm sure you're really excited for the weekend. Okay, so the stuff that you did for today, I wanted to talk through that and then give you a task for next. So you divided your lit review into stages and phases. And I guess my first question for you is, do you think that what is over here actually matches here? So for example, you've described the topic, but I'm not sure you've got a thesis here. And then synthesize the literature. This one is really what it's supposed to be doing is synthesizing like all the literature of the topic, not just you just sort of have one, perspective here. And so it's synthesizing the literature in kind of a big picture way, and then it's narrowing in and transitioning to your focus. Okay, so then with your focus has to be about your thesis, which you're missing, so it's hard to figure out, where you're going. I know where you're going because I've talked to you about this, but I'm just being, kind of critical so that you can, work on this. Okay, so then the way these typically would read is the sentence in the first position is going to be the thesis. So this is about classroom teachers not having the power to alter the public school system or control over the curriculum. So I know your things about curriculum. So here would be your opportunity to have a thesis that was, again, relate back to your thesis up here. But then this is sort of the thesis of the research. So I think the research is on engagement. So then you would want to frame it like that. I think this works in terms of what it does here, your conclusion, and set up your own research. So maybe start here and kind of work back. What I would like you to do next is actually work on an argument outline. So I'm going to send this to you. So basically what I've done is I've taken the stages and the phases from the other one, and I've kind of put it in an outline form. You can do it in a chart if you want. I would have kind of copied yours over, except it's PDF, so I couldn't do that. Okay. So I want you to think about your capstone, and I want this to be what's going to work for this. So again, you're focusing on engagement. You're focusing on, so the context is why there's a lack of engagement, right? Particularly with this population. So in the synthesis part, you're looking at, again, the kind of the problem with engagement, all those sort of big historical, things here. And then this is where you're going to zoom in on engagement. And then you also have, because this is action research, you can also, and actually I'll edit this, you can have a sort of problem solution kind of approach. Actually, it could be up here. And this kind of introduction is actually, you're going to put it where it is right now, but it ultimately is going to kind of be restated or repeated in the beginning of your whole, it's probably going to be the same introduction to your whole capstone, so it's going to, just to kind of rough it out now, but then you'll develop it when you get to that point. Okay, so then, and this is the part that I really want you to kind of develop for this week. So again, you've got kind of different areas that you're looking at. And each area that's part of this is you're going to have kind of a thesis topic sentence, you're going to have a claim, you're going to have an example of a study that supports a claim, and then an example from, like, ideally another study that supports the claim. And then you're probably going to have that about 3 times. The reason I think you're going to have about kind of 3 areas is because you kind of have 3 areas here. So you have this area, this Gloria Latson-Billings work, but what is the real, instead of just telling what she says, what's the real issue here? So is it the lack of equity? And then in which case, like, say that's it. So then what you would do is you would go over here and you would say this would be your claim, that there's a lack of equity in the schools. and then you'd have her example from her work that it's a lack of equity, right? This idea of the curriculum, I'm not sure whether you want to push that, but if so, then that would be another thing. Like you could say, teachers don't have control of the curriculum. Here's an example from one study. Here's an example from another study. Where that, and then here, this issue of the literature and the important to find yourself in the literature. That's kind of like a third, I feel like that's an important piece that maybe would kind of go here, is that students need to see themselves in the literature that they're reading. And then that would tie into if they don't see themselves, they're not engaged, and they're also, it's also part of this equity issue. So you don't totally have to know how all these pieces are tying together, but that's your next step. And I'm thinking of kind of working it through this, where it's basically just kind of a series of sort of thesis statements and how you're going to connect and defend them with. So what I would do is I would start with that, just all your words here, and then think about what you've read that actually fits in. So one of the things that I'm pushing you, and I'm doing this with your classmates as well, is start with kind of the framework of kind of your case, how you're going to build this case, and then you're going to build in what other people have said. As it looks right now, is kind of like, here's what Gloria Ladson-Billings said, here's what, here's this other thing, there's this, achievement gap, and again, it's not connected in a way that you need to connect it. So that's your next step. And then once you've kind of done that argument, then you can start building this out. And then for your lit review that's going to be due for this class, you're going to need this whole thing. So I think you are probably, I would say, do two things this week. One is do this argument outline, save that as a document. And if you want to send that to me over as soon as you get it done, that I'll have a look at it. And then the next is start developing kind of this area here, which is going to be an expanded version of this section here. And then this section you would write after you do this one, because again, this is sort of the preview of kind of what you're doing in here. Does that make sense? Something I'm going to have you all do, and you'll see shortly, is focus. I want you, when you're doing your reading for this week, I want you to really think about how the authors are setting out their arguments, how they're positioning things. I think that's going to help with figuring this writing out. I'm looking here at the mentor text that I gave you, so you could take another look at those. But I think that's it. So I will send this to you, and I will look forward to seeing what you've got. Okay, thanks. Bye.